What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the When Words Don't Come Easy podcast. I am so glad that you are here. And if it's your first time ever to join, well, welcome. My name's Andy Howard. I'm your host. And I have a special guest with you today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce him. This is Rob Vaughn.
Hi there. Glad
Rob,
to be here.
Awesome. Rob is the founder, I guess. Are you the only founder or was there co-founder?
No, just me.
He's the founder of the Christian Wrestling Federation. We're going to dive into a lot of that today and just his story, a remarkable story. But first of all, welcome, man. And do you have anything you'd like to say just to start it off?
Well, man, I just, I know we haven't been friends for a long time, but gosh, we've become fast friends. And man, I love you and your family, and just the time we're getting to spend together and grow together. It's just, it's been amazing, man.
It has been a fun journey. One thing that we do, Rob started this, and I'm kind of enjoying it now, is we're taking pictures with all the spots we've been, and we've been all over the world now. Man, kind of fun.
It's been fast too, hasn't it?
Really fast.
It's really cool.
For sure. Well, the way I met Rob, and he still is the PE teacher at the school where the girls were going as of last year, and now they've started a new school. But he invited them once to, and maybe more than once, I don't know, but to a Christian Wrestling Federation show. Yeah. So I took the girls. I took Presley first. She wanted to do it. She's always been my wrestler girl, so she wanted to do it. Now Parker is on board.
Both
yes, right. They're both here. But I took her one night, and it was a great show. Well, then she wanted to go back the next month. The next month, they had this little announcement at the end saying, "Hey, we're gonna be doing this kids camp." Presley's elbowing me like, "Dad, I got to do this."
That's right.
And so she's been hooked ever since. But tell us a little bit about the Christian Wrestling Federation for those who may not know what it is. Just what is it, and how it came about?
Well, the Christian Wrestling Federation, we started in the year 2000, and man, when I got started way back then, I was just hoping to do a few church camps, maybe, and maybe a show here and there. And boy, the Lord had something much more in store for that. So what happened was I've been a coach. I've been a coach my whole life, and I've been coaching in college football. I've been coaching in the Arena Football League, and I just moved back to the Dallas area when I ran into a guy who I went to high school with, and he was a professional wrestler. He was like, "Oh my gosh, can we how big you are, man?" He goes, "I ran a wrestling school here in town." He goes, "Why don't you come and train to be a wrestler?" And so, it's one of those things where, I watched it growing up. I was kind of a fan, but it was things. Okay, I'm 28 years old, and if I don't do it now, I'll probably will be too old and never do it, because most of these guys that get into it are right out of high school, right out of college, stuff like that. So I got into it and started training with him, and then he started doing like small independent wrestling shows in around outside Dallas and East Texas, and man, I did it for about 8 months, and I just really didn't like it. There was a lot of things I didn't like about it. I didn't like a lot of wrestlers I didn't like, the crowds that came, getting flipped off by kids in the stands. I mean, so a lot of things I did not like. And so I had gone to San Antonio in August of 1999, and I was staying with some friends down there, and they run a huge music ministry down there. And Ron, the husband, says, "How's that wrestling going?" And I just sat there and told him everything I told you. And I said, "Man, I'm fixing to quit. It's just, I've done it almost a year, and it's time to move on." And he says, "I wonder if you can make a ministry out of wrestling." Man, I remember laughing. I remember going, "Are you kidding?"
That's a good one.
It is. And I said, and so he said, "All those reasons you just gave me why you don't like it are reasons why this could be a ministry."
Wow.
Those are the people that need to hear the gospel.
So cool.
Because wrestling is like, there's just a new fan base that comes with every generation, and they just keep growing. And it's true. It really is. And so I went home and said, "I'm going to pray about this." And so I prayed about it for about 2 months, and the Lord just kept drawing me, and he just kept, showing me people that, said, "Hey, I'll help you support this dream." And so in October of 1999, I went and registered the name Christian Wrestling Federation, and became an LLC, and I got a website. Man, that's when stuff was really new back then,
Wow.
And so I remember going and getting bulk mail and mailing out 3,000 pieces of mail to churches in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, trying to get, and I didn't have any wrestlers. I didn't have a ring. I just started sending stuff out. And then next thing I know, it started coming back. People calling me, hey man, tell me more about this. And I'm telling them about something I don't even know yet because we haven't done a show. And man, I was blessed with a couple of guys here in my hometown, who believed in me.
Yeah.
And so, you know what? We're going to give you that seed money. We're going to give you the seed money and get this thing started. So I bought a ring. I rented a little small warehouse. I started finding wrestlers here and there. And that's how the CWF kind of came about. And we started training in February of 2000. And then our first show was May 10th of 2000. It was in Mesquite, Texas at Family Cathedral of Praise. And it was on Wednesday night. The youth minister had really done a great job of promoting the show, getting people there. And that first night, over 700 kids showed up.
Wow.
And 30 of them got saved.
That is so cool.
And I was like, whoa, we might be on something.
Maybe you can make a ministry out of wrestling.
Maybe. And so we did church camps all that summer. And that first year, it just kept getting bigger. We were in People magazine. We were on all kinds of TV shows. I mean, we were getting interviewed, radio interviews. I did 40 radio interviews my first year. And so it just kind of kept growing and growing and growing. That first year, we gained a lot of traction, a lot of momentum. And kids were just people didn't matter. They were just getting saved at every show. And it was probably the worst ever in the beginning. You know, how it takes a while when you start something. You got to find your group. Exactly. And here we are 22 years later.
22 years.
Over 1,000 shows.
Wow.
36 states we performed in, 5 foreign countries, and we've seen over 50,000 people get saved at our shows.
That is so cool. And
I guess God can use wrestling.
So yes. What was the number, that final number? I don't want to
over 50,000.
50,000 saved.
Yes.
And one of those 50,000 was this past Saturday night, because I was there. I'm faithful. I'm now I don't know what your fans are called. We need a nickname for your fans.
I know we do. We
I'm one of those faithful ones. And this past Saturday night, it was special for me. I was just watching because there's a little, I don't know if I can say his name, but there's one of the kids that have been attending the camp.
Yeah.
The smallest little guy named Jericho. And how old? Maybe he's 7?
No, I think he's 6.
6, little guy. Well, he gave his heart to the Lord on Saturday night. I saw his hand go up what's very cool about this. So they'll come and they put on a great show, very clean show too. They still have the bad guys. They still have the heels and the baby face, but it's a very clean show, but very good wrestling. I'm very impressed with all your guys. And then at the very end though, of each show, they have a small little, it's like a sermon. It's a little
gospel
devotion.
Presentation. Yeah, just a small presentation. Your attention span is just really short. A lot of kids are there, so you can't just go into a full sermon.
Right.
So we have to hit, and we train. We work on this when we train on Monday nights, and sometime earlier in the show, we'll usually share some type of testimony and tie in what happened in the match to.
That's what I've always enjoyed. Is all your matches are you guys are, whoever your writers are, and I guess y'all may do, maybe we'll dive into that in a minute, but maybe y'all all kind of work together on that.
Yes.
But what I love is how the matches even have a theme, and they all kind of end up tying into kind of what the speaker is talking about.
Exactly. When we get booked to go out to churches and schools and stuff, they'll say, hey, we have this issue going on in our youth group, or this issue going on in our school. Can y'all talk about this? And then we can tie those matches into that, and it's awesome to see.
Well, you talk about 22 years, so a lot of experience. Tell me, and this happens a lot, so I'm just going to throw it out there. But a lot of people say, well, wrestling is fake or whatnot. And I get that, right? Yeah. They may say it's scripted or whatever. But it's definitely not fake, because my little girl now is I want to say a wrestler.
Yes,
she's a wrestler. That's East Texan wrestler.
There you go.
But she's involved, and I can see, even if it is scripted or even whatnot, they are taking real hits. They are falling. They're teaching them. You guys teach them the right way to fall. But it's still, I didn't even want to do it. I watched how sore she got. So I'll just say, what is some of the worst injuries maybe that pop off your head? That's something you've seen. I'm sure you've seen it all in your 22 years.
Yeah, you do. You train and you train to keep the wrestler you're wrestling safe.
Yes.
That is the main thing. You want to be in there. You don't want to be in there with people that are just going to hurt you, and so you want to be known as a safe wrestler. But it's also, you don't want it to look fake.
Right.
When I go to punch somebody, I don't want, oh, he's just fake punching and stuff. And so we've gotten that over the years, and people say that, oh, wrestling's fake, and that's fine. But we do. We train hard. you know, and I don't say how old I am, but man, 22 years has taken a toll on the body.
I bet
And,
so.
and when we've seen broken bones, we've seen, I mean, some nasty injuries over the years. And the worst thing that's ever happened to me was in 2003. Now I was pushing about 285, 290 at that time.
Wow.
And we were wrestling outside, and it was summertime, and it was hot, and it was sweaty.
In
And so
Texas,
in
right?
Texas. And
Okay,
so
so that's triple
yeah,
digits.
there you
Easy.
go. So a guy goes to pick me up, he scoots me up for a body slam. So he's holding me up, and my head is pointing down. And as he has got me turned upside down, the sweat off his hands and my body, I slip right through his hands,
Oh, no.
and I go down at such a force straight down. I could not get my hand to brace myself on the mat. So I hit right on the top of my head, and all 280, 90 pounds came down and twisted my neck. Man, I thought I broke my neck. I did. I fell off there, and I told them we gave the safe word, and so they pinned me, and I was done. And man, I got to the back, and I was just, I mean, I was, you know, just everything was going numb, and I missed 6 months.
Wow.
And so yeah, it was a month before I could turn my head again. I walked around, you know, and it was bad. That was probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me, you know. But it's a toll on the body. That's why I have so much respect for those guys on TV that have done it for years and years. I mean, their bodies literally, they of course they get paid well to do it, but they have taken
it takes a toll. It does.
Yep.
And one thing though that we talk about on this podcast, I've talked about so many times, of these God winks is what I call them. When I don't believe in coincidences. You'll hear me say that over and over. Exactly. I believe how God has ordained just so many things. You have a phenomenal story as well, besides the wrestling, and that's huge. But even this wouldn't be a wrestling injury per se. But about a year ago, you can take over. It was a little over a year ago. Yeah. After one of your matches, you had just been in the ring that night. You guys had a powerful night, I'm sure, that night. It probably didn't end the way you thought it would, like other matches. No. Tell me what happened after you got home that night.
So, well, let's back up just a little bit and set it up. So in my 30s, I pushed 300 for at least a decade. Wow. 300 pounds. And I got into powerlifting. I was strong as an ox, but I kept eating and eating and eating because I wanted to keep size on. Because man, I was a quarterback my whole life. I never weighed more than about 215, 220. Wow. And so I was pushing 300 for over a decade. And so, you know, I'd reached a point where I decided I need to lose that weight, took the steps, lost the weight. And so for about 12 years, I had been at about 210, 215 pounds. And so on June the 12th of 2021, we had a monthly show here in our hometown. And I wrestled a match and felt fine, and left the match, and some of us had gone to eat together. And so after the show, I'd taken my son and dropped him off at a friend's house to spend the night. And I remember I dropped him off, and I was driving back through the neighborhood. I just started sweating profusely, and I started noticing just shortness of breath. And so I called Beth, and I said, man, I don't feel so good. And she said, what's wrong? So I told her, and she said, just stay on the phone with me till you get home. This is about a 10-minute drive back to the house. And so I get to the house, and I walk in, I drop my wrestling bag down. I said, man, I don't feel so good. She goes, you don't look good either. And so we sat down on the couch for just a few minutes, and we're just talking about it. And I said, she goes, what do you want to do? I said, well, I really just want to take a shower and go to bed. And so at the time, we had only been living in this little bitty tiny rent house of about 1,200 square feet for about a month. We had just sold our big house, and we raised up the older kids, and we moved into this little rent house. It was just a temporary place. Okay. Yeah. And so I go back there into our small little bedroom, has a small little bathroom. And right next to our bedroom is our daughter, our 20-year-old daughter, Brooke, was in there. So Beth's standing in the doorway talking to her. So I remember walking into the shower and flipping the nozzle on to turn it on. And I guess as soon as I stepped out, I fell back against the door and collapsed. And so Beth heard it. And so she was able to run over there.
That's the last thing
I remember was falling. And so she's trying to get the door open, and I'm laying up against it.
She's a little thing.
Yeah.
If you've ever met Beth, love her to death, but
she's tiny. She's 5'1", about 110 pounds. And so, but man, I tell you, her God strength pushed that door and enough to get inside. And now, see, it would have been that big house. If I'd have gone upstairs to take a shower, that would have been on the other end of the house. She would never heard it. So it would have been over. And so, so she yells at Brooke, call 911. And And so Beth gets in there and immediately she pulls me flat and jumps on top and starts compressions, and so Brooke calls 911, and the rest of the thing is a total God story.
So many of them.
It is.
So many factors.
Everything
any
had to fall
one
in.
factor that was not in line like this could have lost you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there was a cop turning onto the end of our street doing patrol. It was a Saturday night, and he got the call. He made it up the street in about 30 seconds.
Wow.
He comes in the door. He was able to push the door all the way open, pulled me out. He kept continuing compressions. This cop had been a combat medic in Iraq.
Wow.
And so he kept compressions going. Within 3 minutes, the ambulance was there. The paramedics came in. They started compressions or kept it going. They recognized immediately what had happened. My widowmaker was 100% blocked.
Wow.
And so, when the doctors gave me later on, told me it's usually about 9% chance of survival from that point.
Man.
And so they loaded me up, but my heart had stopped twice there, and they had put the paddles on me, get it started again, got me into the ambulance, drove me to the hospital. When they pulled up, Beth was with a couple of the wrestlers who had showed up to take her at our house, and they opened the doors to get me out. And all of a sudden they shut them again. And the wrestlers were like, this ain't good.
Yeah.
And so my heart stopped again. And so they put the paddles on one more time. They got it, and it started enough to get me in there and get me in. So they ran they just opened a cath lab a month earlier in this hospital. I know. And so
wow.
Beth got to meet the little bitty tiny doctor since she was 18. And she goes, please save my husband. And so she went in there, and they ran all they did was they had to go in through my groin, and they ran a shunt and all the way up, and opened it up. And then within 45 minutes it was already done. And
wow.
So it already cleared the blockage, and they checked my other arteries, and everything was completely clear. And so but I was still not out of the woods. And so, man, that Beth said that waiting room turned into a house of worship. Yeah. It was nothing but praise and songs and prayer going on there all night long. And so
even the police officer, I remember having this conversation with you. So he came back to check on you at the ER, and he saw Beth in the waiting room. But he had thought you'd pass. He just figured you'd pass at that point.
Yeah, he thought when he came back, he just wanted to come back and check because he didn't think I was going to make it. Wow. And he came back and said he's not out of the woods, but they got everything done, and we're waiting. And so about 24 hours later, they said he's going to be all right. He's going to make it. And so I didn't wake up until Tuesday. This happened Saturday night. I woke up Tuesday morning. So I had no clue. I woke up in a hospital bed. I'm hooked up to all this stuff, and I said, "What happened?" And they're like, well, you got some time, so let me tell you. So.
Wow. So even that, you survived, but you just had a massive heart attack.
Yes.
So this is you said June of 21?
June of 21.
So what are the odds at this point that you're ever going to wrestle again, or did they tell you?
Well, first, when the cardiologist was great. I mean, I still go see him, and he is fantastic. But he told Beth when we left the hospital Tuesday night after that, he said, now his heart is probably only going to function at about 65%. And so, but man, my chest hurt for a month. The compressions they did on me, oh my God. And then I met the paramedic, and this dude looked like Popeye with giant arms, and he was huge. And when I met him, he was like, how many broken ribs did you have? And I said, none. He goes, what? Wow. He said, I pounded you through the floor, man. He goes, I thought for sure I was breaking ribs. And so
that is crazy. Wow.
But I've been going every 3 months and getting EKGs done, getting checked out. And right now my heart is pumping at 95%. And the last one, he said, you are my miracle man. He introduces me every time to people when I go to the office. He goes, hey, this is my miracle man here, And,
so tell them what happened a year later. It was a year. Was it a year to the date? Or
no, it was 13 months.
13 months later.
So 13 months later, he told me, he goes, hey, look, I know I'm not going to stop you if you want to. But if you want to wrestle, you can do it. You know your body better than anybody. So you just take it at your pace. So I did. I slowly have done training throughout the summertime, and And on August 6th of this year, I got back in the ring. Now, it wasn't a long match,
Yeah.
but man, it felt good to you. But you were there
Yeah,
that
I
night.
was
You got to
there.
see
It was
it.
a very fun night.
So-
That was actually the night my girls got to
Yes,
do
it
that
was.
pre-match,
They
pre
were-
before y'all.
Their show.
Yes, and then y'all show was there, and it is fun watching you do what you do. I've been waiting for that because I've been coming to the shows,
Right. Yeah.
and you still had a vital part even when you wasn't wrestling. You would still help with whether it's the speaking or the altar calls at the end and things. But I know there's nothing like doing what you love and what you're called to do and what your passion is.
It is.
And so, where can people find your matches? They're all recorded, right?
Yes, everything's recorded. Our website is christianwrestling.com, and that's where we really promote our shows through that. And there's a lot of pictures and information about our ministry. But we have our own YouTube channel, Christian
Awesome.
Wrestling Federation, Rockwall, Texas. And there's probably over 100 shows on there they can check out. And we got some all new equipment to film it and upload it immediately.
Yeah.
So we've been very blessed.
Well, it's so fun watching you guys, and there's some of them that have been with you since the beginning, right? A couple of the wrestlers have been there for 22 years with you.
Well, that's what's cool about this ministry is that, you're right. I got two guys that are still wrestling that were on the very first show 22 years ago. But this thing has become such a ministry, and it changes over the years where we were just excited about wrestling and talking about Jesus. And now some of the older guys, I got some guys been with me 19, 16, 12, whatever, how many years. And so we've gotten to where I enjoy discipling the young guys that come into the ministry more than anything, and seeing them grow and teaching them how to share their testimony in front of people and how to do. Right now, we just finished up a series of working on, we gave them one verse, one story. You start with Jesus, you end with Jesus in the altar call in 5 minutes. And so we've been practicing that.
That's good. Yeah.
And, it's been really cool to see these guys go from standing up, bumbling, stumbling along the first time to wow, they can do it. Their confidence grow. They can do it now. So this ministry really is a brotherhood. We have had guys that have just walked in the door just completely broken and just said, man, I love wrestling, and I used to go to church, and man, I just need to be around some godly men.
Yeah.
And that's what we are. We're a bunch
fun
of godly
atmosphere, and it's family friendly. And
For
I
sure.
grew up loving wrestling. From the Von Erich days to even the early, I guess the last I kind of quit watching was around the 2000s. The Rock and Stone Cold were coming on.
The Attitude Era, probably.
And it got to, for me, and this is my own personal conviction, this is no judgment towards anyone else, but for me, it got to where I just didn't care for it anymore. It was kind of a sex sells kind of thing, really big, just pushing ladies and girls. Even the dudes were very much into selling their bodies or whatnot. So it was I say all that to say when I came into this, I didn't know what to expect. It's like almost like an oxymoron. Like, is Christian and wrestling, is it a thing? That's just my own, but this is so fun. If you've never been to this, I would encourage you to come check it out, because my girls absolutely love it. And it's very clean environment, high quality wrestling.
Or bring us to your church.
There you go.
There you go. You can see us in person.
You guys do camps.
We do outreaches. We're doing
school assemblies.
We go speak at school assemblies, and the big assemblies we'll set up the ring and do like an hour show. And matter of fact, we got one coming up on Halloween. It's a trunk or treat. And so we'll be at a big church in I know, and they'll have the trunk or treat going on. Then they'll stop that down for us. So we do all kinds of events.
Well, before we there are a few wrestlers. I got that East Texan in me that have went all the way to the WWE that have come right through your organization. Why don't you talk about a couple of those guys?
Okay. Well, there's a little guy for WWE. He's been there a few years. You may have heard of him, AJ Styles.
Wow.
And AJ was he had been in WCW and had a short run with them, and then he had called. We were coming to Georgia to do a youth conference, and he called and was telling me. Of course, back then in 2001, it was just hard to find footage, unless they had their own. And so we met with AJ, and we were like, "Wow, this dude is super athletic," And so he traveled with us for about a year and a half. I never forget the phone call that he gave me one day. He says, "Hey Rob," he goes, "Hey man, I may not be able to go with you guys as much as I have been." He says, "There's this thing called Total Nonstop Action. The Jarretts are going to start it, and they really want to push this X division with the smaller guys, and I'm one of the guys." And I was like, "Dude, go for it. I hope it works out." I think it worked out pretty good for him. Yeah. But man, what a godly man AJ is, and how awesome he has been to us. We've had a couple of fans, super fans, have been with us over the years who, have had to go to the hospital for surgery and stuff. And man, I send him a quick text. Hey man, do you mind send a video to this guy? And here's his name, here's the situation. And man, he'll just pop that
That's
off.
so
And
cool.
that is so cool. And then here recently, we had a guy out of Orlando, Florida. His name was Josh Dawkins. And you know who his brother-in-law was? I mean, his uncle was? His uncle was Chocolate Thunder, Daryl Dawkins.
What?
Remember the guy who used to break the backboards in the
break the
NBA?
boards down. Wow.
That was his uncle.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool.
I know. And so anyways, he'd come down and wrestled with us several times. And then he called me last August and said he'd gone in for a tryout at the Performance Center at WWE. And then he had, I said, well, did you hear anything? He goes, well, they just, said they'd contact me whenever they, whenever they had something. And so it went all summer long. And then finally in August of 2021, they contacted him, had him come in, and they signed him to a contract. So now he is on Tuesday night on the WWE's NXT brand. And so you turn on TV and there he is. And so my 13-year-old, the first time he was on, I was like, Rock, come here. They changed his name though. He goes by Malik Blade now. They changed his name. And I yelled at Rock. I said, Rock, come in here. I said, can you believe this? Here he is wrestling on TV. He's set here in this house and you beat him at NBA 2K. I mean,
that's cool. Well, man, I've enjoyed this time getting to kind of go down the memory lane with you and explain what Christian Wrestling Federation is all about. But as we're leaving, is there anything else you want to share with anyone who's watching about what you guys do or just about anything that's on your heart?
Yes, I'd love to. When we started out with this, it was just a vision, and God really put some people and just made some things happen that you can only God can explain. If we were to pull out a business plan and do a business plan, people would say, "Oh, it's going to fail.
It don't make sense.
It don't make sense." You can't combine all these things together and stuff. And so, but it has definitely been God breathed. I mean, it has been every step of the way. Has it been easy? No. It has been. There's been your ups, your downs, but I'm telling you, God has put the right people in the right place at the right time. The right wrestlers, the right churches. I've got friends all over the world now in ministry because of this. And I've gone places I never would have dreamed of. You know how you always say, when you're younger, they'll say, well, I don't want to be a missionary. They might send me to Africa. Well, I've been to Africa, you know what? I love Africa and I love the people there. And so be careful what you ask for. Joyce Meyer always used to say, be careful what you ask for because you just might get it.
That's true. And then next summer, gosh, you're headed to Costa Rica, right?
That's our plans. That's our plans.
2-week kind of a mission
trip, over there. And so, but God has definitely directed our steps. And when you're faithful and when things, even when things look their bleakest or they're the best, man, I've always told the guys, just stay steady in your relationship with God, because up or down, whether you have those ups or downs, man, He is just let Him direct your paths.
That's so good. So true. And what you started with, I want to end with, is you started with being faithful, because He was saying, have you ever considered? So it was all the things, all the reasons why you didn't want to do something. And He's like, have you ever considered that's the reason you should do this? So you guys may be facing, I don't know what your story is out there, but maybe it's, I don't know, you want to speak somewhere, or you want to write a book like I never knew would happen in my life, or maybe you have a dream to start a business or a ministry, whatever it is, but you just didn't think it's possible and you've been sitting on the sidelines for way too long. My challenge is try it one day at a time. Test God's faithfulness. You didn't have the wrestlers. You didn't have the place. You didn't have the money.
Nothing.
You didn't have it. And God has provided for all of it. So what a story to all of us, that if we are faithful and we're obedient, He provides. So I want to thank you guys for joining. If this has been a blessing to you, I ask that you just subscribe, that you'll like this one, and that you will share it with somebody. Maybe there's some wrestling fans in your life that need to hear this story. Go ahead and share this with them. But thanks so much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Remember, always look for the beauty in the broken. So we love you guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If this episode helped you in any way, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review and share it with somebody else. Thanks so much. I'll catch you next time.